Okay, we're back. Awesome. Hey guys, I'm Brad. I am the co-founder of General Assembly and USABO 03, 04, 05, and 06. I know it's a lot. There are like two USABO people here. Hi, Phil. Phil's one of the other USABO people here. So I'm actually curious, how many people saw our entrepreneurship panel this morning that had some awesome VCs on it? Awesome, so like 2/3 of you. And I didn't get a chance to like really look out at the audience and see how many people were like interested in starting a company at some point in their careers, or had started a company. So how many people here like are interested in starting a company or have started a company at some point in their career? Amazing number. I was really surprised by how many people this morning had some sort of entrepreneurial interests or had done something. So it's very, very cool. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about kind of my story, how I got to where I am, and I'm going to pair that with some of the learnings that I've had over the past few years in education through growing General Assembly and coming from a world where I went from a very traditional educational experience into doing something that I think is very much off the beaten path. So first, I'd like to talk about CEE and me. I grew up in the super rural South. I grew up in a tiny town in Arkansas, about 90 miles away from the nearest grocery store, movie theater, anything. And whenever you're growing up in a situation like that, there's one thing you try to do, and that's get the hell out of there. And my junior year of high school, my biology teacher, who's an amazing woman, came up to me and said, "Hey Brad, I want you to take this test. Just don't ask what it is. Just take it and give it back to me." And I took it, and that turned out to be the first ever USABO entrance examination. And I ended up being invited into the group of 20 at the time at George Mason University, the first ever USABO class, which was an amazing experience and got me so excited about biology and about that competition, really, and the ability to do something cool and be a part of that group of people that I came back the next year. That year I went on to IBO in Australia, and that was just an otherworldly experience for a kid from the rural South. For some crazy reason, they invited me back in 05 and 06 to come help out and tutor. This was while I was in college, so I would take the first half of my summer and come back and help out at the USABO camp, even though I think by 2006 I'd pretty much forgotten everything I knew other than just like the scars from cutting up a grasshopper with a double-edged razor blade, which is what you do at IBO, because it's like a former Soviet competition. It's amazing. It's one of the weirdest experiences. It really is like I was coming here this weekend. I tried to tell the people I hang out with like today, who are not science people at all. They're entrepreneur tech guys, like what I'm doing and like what experience led me to come here and be a part of CEE, and it would turn into like a 20-minute story, and eventually by the end I was just like, it's a long story, don't worry about it. So I decided when I got to college, in 07 they didn't invite me back, which was probably a good idea. So instead of coming to USABO, I decided to start a company. I actually decided to start a gaming company. Because what does a 20-year-old dude with a free summer do other than build games? So we built games and actually ended up having success at that. So we hired a small team. We were about a 20-person game studio by the time I graduated college, and that kind of got me into the technology community in New York. I moved, packed my bags, moved to New York, and started building games there. And that got me talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. Meeting a lot of people who were designers, technologists, and more importantly, who were hiring technologists and designers, web developers, user experience designers, digital marketers, these 21st century craftspeople, you could say. And one thing I noticed is that no one was getting the skills they need. And, I saw that pretty clearly back in, coffee is in the way of the projector. I saw that pretty clearly back in 2010, and this is still a major thread today. And this was an article that came out last week in the journal asking why aren't companies getting graduates with the skills they need. It's called the skills gap. There are a huge number of people coming out of college, a lot of them unemployed, and there are a lot of companies with open roles, primarily in STEM disciplines, that just aren't getting filled, and companies can't find the hires they need to fill these roles. And as I said, it's not like youth unemployment is
not at the highest level it's been in 20 years. And this is not just a race or class thing, although it's exacerbated by race or class. It's really across the board. There's insane and unprecedented unemployment rates among young people, and companies definitely aren't doing their part in this role. 30 years ago, you could graduate from a 4-year liberal arts school, and you could go into a company, and that company would train you how to do it, whatever it was that you were going to be doing. In 1979, the average worker, not just the average young worker, but the average worker in general, got 2.5 weeks per year of on-the-job training. Today, that's down to 11 hours per year. So the amount of on-the-job training that a worker actually does has shrunk by over 90% over the past 30 years. So while at the same time companies aren't being able to hire the skills they need, there's a huge amount of unemployed young people. In the US, in Europe it's even worse. Companies aren't training people either. So after a few years of being in this ecosystem, I decided to get together with a couple of friends and start a company to help address this problem. So created a company called General Assembly, and the mission of GA is to build a global community of individuals empowered to pursue work they love. And we do that by taking educated people, almost all of them college graduates, most of them liberal arts, and training them in the most relevant 21st century skills in technology, design, and business. And we started this company about 3 years ago. And since then, we've gone into 8 cities, 5 of them in the US and 3 international. We've launched 10 programs, and we really identify these programs by going to employers and asking them, what do they need? What are the unfilled jobs that don't require a college degree necessarily, or don't require 4 years of training? But we could teach in a 12-week to 6-month program to someone reasonably intelligent and then place them at that job. Since then, we've had 4,000 alumni, and we've had a 96% job placement rate of those alumni going through these programs. And we have 2,000 hiring companies, and the limiting reagent of this reaction is not the alumni, it is the hiring, it's not the hiring companies, it's the alumni. There are still way more unfilled jobs out there than there are people that are willing to put in 12 really, really hard weeks of work to get there. So this is some of the things we've seen so far from this program, and we like to think of just based on kind of where we're from and kind of how we got here. We like to think of this program in kind of 3 pieces: community, skills, and opportunity. So if you have a community of kind of really deeply engaged, like-minded people that are being paired with the right skills, you get those kind of incredible next-gen opportunities. Community is really because when we started General Assembly, we were all kind of entrepreneurs and hackers ourselves, and GA really just started out of a community of like-minded people who were interested in solving this problem, and it was really about going to companies and finding out what they needed. Great example of this is how we decide to teach some of the skills we teach. So we went to, in kind of a process of going to employers, we were approached by American Express, and they said, hey, we'll need to hire 2,000 data scientists, junior level data scientists, not necessarily PhDs, in the next 2 years. And we don't know where to get them, because there aren't really junior level data scientists being produced at any kind of scale from the traditional education model of the country. So we're going to hand you our head data scientist for 3 months, and he's going to pair with your in-house instructional design team, and you're going to create a data science course, and then you're going to go out and find self-taught programmers and kids who just graduated with CS degrees and teach them how to be data scientists. So that's what we do, and that's one of our most popular programs. So skills, community and skills equals opportunities. What do I mean by that? Well, opportunity is, for us, it's mostly about job placement. It's mostly about finding those opportunities that we can connect students with. I just got an email the other day about a student at our Los Angeles campus who was a Domino's pizza delivery guy. They actually call them delivery experts, which is kind of a cool piece of title hacking. It was awesome. I kind of love it. And he showed up and was delivering pizza to our Los Angeles campus and asked, well, what is this thing? And came in and decided to enroll in our web development immersive class. I just found out last week that he had graduated about a month ago and had just gotten a job at a SaaS enterprise startup building software in Ruby on Rails. And that's his new job. So stories like that just kind of blow me away. And most stories are not necessarily a delivery guy from Domino's. They're a history major from Dartmouth who can now be a productive member of society. I take what I can get. So thanks CEE. I feel like CEE and Yusabo in particular is somewhat responsible for pulling me out of the South and giving me some really cool experiences at a very young age. So it's one of the reasons I'm here and happy to take any questions you guys have or just hang out and chat.
So what's GA's business model?
What is GA's business model? So it's entirely tuition based. The average course price is $6,000, which is a lot more than a lot of other kind of light educational opportunities, but we don't think we're very light, and we actually, most of the students who decide to enroll in GA are deciding to enroll in GA over, say, business or law school, because they're people who are 2 to 10 years out of an undergrad degree and decide they need to reboot their career. So we think of everything we do as ROI-based education. That is, if you can't pay back whatever you pay us within a year of graduating in terms of the salary delta you're going to get, you shouldn't do it. So we think of everything we do as ROI-based.
Do you have some sort of connection with a student loan program that either through yourselves or...
Yeah. It's a really good question. It's something, the question is, do we have connections to a student loan program? It's to go back and forth on, because student loans are one of the biggest problem in the country today, and the student debt crisis is going to be a bigger and bigger issue. And the last thing we want to be is on the wrong side of history there. So historically, we haven't offered any loans whatsoever. The end result of that is not a good thing, which means it's constrained us to have a higher echelon of the socioeconomic pyramid. We've actually started experimenting with a credit union partnership over the last 2 months. We think credit unions, since it's more of a community-based offering, is the right solution for our students.
Your training program is graded. People get a score for their competency analysis.
It's all pass-fail. We think as long as you meet kind of that threshold on the rubric that says you can be admitted to our partner program and our apprenticeship program, that everyone should be the same. We've been experimenting with rolling out some model of multi-dimensional assessment where it looks at not only your competency in that program, but also, for instance, your ability to work on teams, your social aptitude, other dimensions of beyond just like, well, how good of a data scientist are you or something like that. It's still something we're experimenting with. Like, look, we're a startup, so we're still pretty early stage, and assessments are part of that.
Have you looked at any options where the employer might be able to help financing for potential candidates?
We have. The challenge is you don't want to create a model of indentured servitude, and you can't. I'm not being glib here. I'm actually being serious. That you end up with strange models as you try and combat the moral hazard of that. The model that we've seen work, and we have a lot of students who go through with equity-based financing options, where someone, whether it's a fund or a company or an individual, has given them a loan in exchange for a percentage of their income for 10 years in the future. We don't do that ourselves, but if a student decides to do that on their own, we're not going to say no. So it's tricky when working with companies though, because no student wants to promise that they will take a job at a company, and no company wants to promise that they will hire a student that they haven't really seen yet. The one place in the world that works is like consulting firms and business schools, and there are a lot of reasons why that works, and in some ways it does break down. I think we're probably too short of a program for that to really work.
Do you have many customers that come to sort of upgrade their skills but keep the same job as opposed to changing?
Absolutely. We have a lot of evening programs actually, and one of the most common are designers who want to learn front-end web development skills. I think in terms of number of our 4,000 alumni, that's probably the most common story, is someone is a graphic designer or a web designer and wants to become a designer and front-end web developer so they can actually not just produce a Photoshop file, but can actually implement that in HTML and CSS. That is really, really common, and those people tend to keep the same jobs, just doing a little bit more on that job. Absolutely.
So the initial premise of your talk was actually a little bit surprising to me. The idea that companies are really having trouble finding great folks to fill their positions when at the same time there are great folks out there who have experience in a ton of these fields, also having trouble connecting with these. I feel like there's really both sides of that. And so I wonder, I feel like if potential employees are coming to you saying, gosh, the problem must be that I'm just not, I need to add to my front end, development skills or something else we had on that chart. Do you guys ever look at that resume and say, actually, you may not actually need to take a class with us, but you might just actually need sort of this community of people to apply to jobs with? Because I feel like our generation right now is really running into a lot of trouble with unemployment and finding jobs and just the huge soul-crushingness of the experience and feeling like we're going around like beggars, that I think our confidence is just, and I feel like a company like yours could actually interface with that and do something really amazing there too.
Yeah, I kind of, I agree with your conclusion and don't 100% agree with your premise. So the conclusion that there's a need for a community that connects millennials that is abstracted from education, I totally agree with that. I think that's a massive need out there, and most of the students are hungering not just for the educational experience, but first and foremost for the community. I kind of question the idea that there are a lot of people out there that are perfectly suited for these web development and UX and digital marketing jobs, just because I know a lot of the recruiters and a lot of the entrepreneurs that are trying to find those people, and they're really, really smart and really, really good at what they do. And I feel like if there were big veins of just untapped talent in those disciplines, that they would have, that discovery would have been made to even a small extent. And maybe I'm being kind of overly efficient markets here of the labor force. I don't know. Just a little bit? All right. Anyway, I haven't seen it. I could be wrong. By the way, our acceptance rate is about 26%. So we actually turn down the majority of people who apply. Sometimes it's because we don't think they would be a success based on the experience they've already had.
Or program
for our programs. Yeah, we have an entrance program. Yeah, so if we think someone is overqualified, we won't let them in, because they're just going to be disappointed and they're going to be taught things they already know. I mean, that's not a good experience for anyone. So yeah, we only accept about 26% of people who apply. Sorry, let's do one more question because I know we're a little running behind here.
I don't know if you've considered the situation in other countries in the U.S. Have you seen something, a similar need in places like Germany, for instance, that have mainstream vocational training?
It is a need, but there are huge differences outside the U.S. So we have 3 international locations: London, Sydney, and Hong Kong. And the reason we picked those 3 cities is because we can really effectively teach in English. We don't have to translate any of our curriculum or materials. It's not that we're opposed to translation. It's that the things we teach, such as Ruby on Rails, is actually written, the language, the programming language is in English, and the web development community is in English. So if you're not fluent in English, you're never going to be part of the open source web development community. So that's actually one of the biggest barriers we see to international growth. Guys, thank you so much. You guys did an awesome job.